Hi students, welcome to this video. This is the part 2 video of our chapter 6.2 notes. Okay, we are on page 5. So today in this video, I will be going through with you on how to use the general term to find a specific term in our binomial expansion. Okay, so let me set some context. Okay, why do we need to learn this? Okay, so for example, if I'm given or if you are presented with this binomial expansion 1 plus 2x to the power of 99. Okay, so if I were to ask you to find the 79th term, would you expand this all the way, okay, to the 79th term and then finally tell me what is it? Okay, that doesn't make sense, right? Because there will be too many terms to obtain and it will be extremely tedious. So today, by learning the general term of our binomial expansion, we will be able to find exactly the term that we want without going through the hassle of expanding everything. Okay, so this is just to set a bit of context before we start. Alright, so what is the general term? Okay, the general term comes with a formula. Okay, the formula goes like this: TR plus 1 equals to this guy over here. Okay, so all we need to do is to substitute relevant n and r values into our formula over here, and we would be able to obtain what we want. Okay, so what are A and B? Okay, A and B is basically the first term and the second term respectively. Okay, so allow me to show you an example on how do we use this general term in our questions. Okay, so the first question here, example 6, requires us to find the expansion of of this, okay, in ascending powers of x. Okay, and I would just like to find the 8th term. Okay, so without having to expand everything, okay, how do we do that? Okay, so I'm going to write down TR plus 1, that is the general term, equals to 14 choose R. In this case, 14 because the maximum power is equals to 14. Okay, R is the unknown, which we will have to determine. Okay, so applying the formula, the first term raised to the power of n minus r, so 1 raised to the power of 14 minus r, second term raised to the power of r. Alright, so in this case, simplifying this second term using the law of indices, I will expand 2 and r, giving me this guy here. Let me just write it out. 14 choose r, x to the power of 2r. Okay, notice that I have not written or simplified 1 to the power of 14 minus r, simply because 1 raised to any power is just 1, so I can just ignore it. Okay, so the question wants me to find the 8th term. So the 8th term simply means T8. Okay, and by comparing, okay, r plus 1 and 8, okay, I will obtain r to be equals to 7. So I have found an appropriate value of r to substitute into the general term formula, which would allow me to find the 8th term. Okay, so when r is equals to 7, okay, the 8th term would simply be 14 choose 7, okay, and then x squared, okay, or rather x to the power of 2r. So let me write it out again. So x power of 2r, so 2 times 7, so that would give me x power of 14 with the coefficient being 3003. Okay, how did we get this number? Okay, we got this number by evaluating this 14 choose 8 using a calculator. Okay, so 14 choose 8, okay, 3003. Alright, okay, the next one, coefficient of x power of 10. Okay, so now what we need to do is just compare x power of 2r and x power of 10. Okay, and then determine the appropriate value of r to substitute into the general term in order for us to obtain the coefficient of x power 10. Okay, so by comparing the powers, okay, we have x power 2r equals to 10, so it means that their powers must be equal. And solving for r, we have r equals to 5. Okay, so when r is equals to 5, okay, the coefficient of x to the power of 10 is none other than 14 choose 5. Okay, using the calculator, we would obtain 2002. So that is the coefficient of x to the power of 10. Alright. Let's look at the next example, example 7. Okay, so the question has reminded us about the general term, okay, and we have to use this to find the required term based on the questions. For part A, okay, based on this binomial, okay, we are trying to find the middle term. Okay, so before we even start to think what r value to substitute, let's just apply the general term onto this expression. Okay, so n will be 6 in this case. Sorry, n will be 6 in this case, and we have tr plus 1 equals to n choose r 2 to the power of 6 minus r. Okay, so the first term raised to the power of 6 minus r, and the second term raised to the power of r. So the second term includes the negative sign. So negative x cubed raised to the power of r. Okay, so simplifying this, okay, we would have something like 6 choose r 2 to the power of 6 minus r times negative 1 to the power of r x to the power of 3r. Okay, because over here we have negative 1 times x cubed. Using the law of indices, I should split or distribute the power for the both terms. Okay, so that's how I got my negative 1 to the power r. Okay, so now we have to determine the r value. Okay, so if you recall, if I have n to be equal to 6, how many terms will I get if I were to expand this fully? Okay, yes, if you recall, the number of terms is always one more than the maximum power. So in other words, I should have 7 terms lined up like that. Okay, so if I would like to find the middle term, it is really none other than the 4th term. So this question is indirectly asking you to find the 4th term, which is the middle term. So just like just now, I'm going to compare r plus 1 equals to 4. Okay, so I have r plus 1 equals to 4. Okay, solving for r, I will get 3. Okay, so that's why when r is equals to 3, I can finally substitute, okay, my r values into this expression. Okay, okay, so over here I should write it more clearly. I will write negative 1 to the power of r times x power of 3r. Okay, and then r I will replace by the number 3. Okay, so by working this out, okay, I should have negative 160 x to the power of 9. Okay, so negative 160 is obtained by multiplying 6 choose 3 times 2 to the power of 3 times negative 1 to the power of 3. Okay. Okay, part B, term independent of x. So this is very important. Term independent of x basically means that you want a term with no x term. So the only way you can have no x term is when the power of the x term is 0. So in other words, based on our law of indices, x power of 0 is 1. So the question is indirectly asking for the constant term. Okay, so the term independent of x is none other than the constant term. Okay, so I have to apply the general term on this. Okay, simplifying, okay, I will have 18 minus 2r, okay, and then distributing the power of r into the two terms inside the bracket. I have 2 to the power of r, x power negative r. Okay, and then I notice that I have two x terms, which I will then apply the law of indices. If I have the same base multiplied together, I will add their powers together, right? So I'll be adding 18 minus 2r plus negative r, giving me 18 minus 3r. Okay, so now finding the appropriate r value, since I want the term independent of x, I want this power 18 minus 3r to be equals to 0. Okay, solving for r equals to 6. Okay, so the term independent of x is none other than having 6 substituted into the coefficient here. So 9 choose 6. Okay, 9 choose 6 times 2 to the power of 6. Okay, and then working this out with a calculator, you should get 5376. Okay, this is the last question that I'll be going through in this video. Okay, find the term independent of x for this. Okay, so using the general term formula. Okay, likewise, distributing the power of r into the two terms inside the bracket, -1 and x squared. Okay, because this is written as -1 times x power of -2. Okay, so I should have something like this. Okay, so I'm going to simplify all of my x terms using the law of indices. I will add the power, so 9 minus 3r. Okay, the remaining constant terms, I will just leave them together in front. Okay, so this is my coefficient of my x term. Okay, so if I want term independent of x, means I want the x power of 0 term. Okay, so comparing powers, I will have 9 minus 3r to be equals to 0, r equals to 3, finally. Okay, so the term independent of x basically requires us to substitute the value of r, which is equals to 3, into the green color terms that we see above. So 9 choose 3 times 2 to the power of 9 minus 3 times -1 to the power of 3. Okay, so substituting, I should get 5376. Alright, and then lastly for part B, alright, I have to simplify this term first. Okay, but before we do that, okay, you would have to agree with me on one thing. For the second term, okay, we must be agreeable on this, yeah? This is written as -1 over 2 multiplied by 1 over x cubed. Would you agree? Okay, with that, I will write x cubed as x power -3. Okay, so this will be constituting to my second term. This is my b term. Okay, my b term. So in my general term, you will see that I have written the b term as such, using the law of indices, distributing the power of r for these two terms. Okay, and finally, simplifying them using the law of indices again. These two terms should simplify to give me x to the power of 24 minus 5r. Okay, and as mentioned just now, all the other numerical terms, I will group them together as a whole in front. Okay, so now if I want the x power of 9 term, simply just compare this, okay, to x power of 9. So 24 minus 5r must be equals to 9. Okay, 5r equals to 15, and of course r will be equals to 3. Yeah, So after finding the value of r, this appropriate value of r will be substituted into the purple term, okay, allowing me to obtain the coefficient of x cubed. Okay, so working it out using your calculator, you should get negative 27 and a half. All right. So this is the end of the video. The subsequent questions will be uploaded onto Google Classroom, so please refer to it. Okay, so make sure you are familiar with how to use the general term, okay, and how to apply it to find whatever terms that the question require. All right, so with that, please clarify with me if you still have any issues. Okay, otherwise I will see you in class.